Welcome, everybody. I'm Joe from the Game House. Today, we'll be doing a 2025 NFL mock draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are up in our 2025 NFL mock draft series here at the Game House. The Game House's hometown team of Cincinnati. We're going to be doing mock drafts for every NFL team as we go forward before the NFL draft, once before free agency, once after free agency. So make sure to tune in for your favorite team. We'll be using the NFL mock draft database simulator. I like it because it meshes big boards from across the internet together to make their own big board rather than just having one site's big board be there for you. We'll also be declining all trades to keep it as realistic as possible. Let's get started for the Cincinnati Bengals. Need to fix defense. They have players like Trey Hendrickson who want new contracts, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. So that leaves a lot of things to be figured out, but they also have some cap space if they move on from some players. There are some players like Jermaine Pratt who just requested a trade, especially after Lou Anarumo was fired and he's now in Indianapolis. So that's kind of the thought is he might go to Indianapolis. But let's see what we can do here for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is not a bad spot to be in. I don't think they go Ashton Genty will be make that offense just all worldly if they can keep T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Ashton Genty. I don't think it's going to be the MO. I think maybe they trade back to a team who does want Ashton Genty, or even Tyler Warren. I don't think they're going to invest in a first round tight end. They typically have just kind of rolled out 1 year deals for these guys under Burrow's regime. Jalen Walker is a player I really like and I love the value, but Bengals are dead set on getting guys with measurables. So if it were me, I'm going Jalen Walker. I think we'll see how things pan out before the draft. But for them, I think they'd go James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee, a guy who was in the running to be the number one overall pick. Needs to kind of refine his game, add some pass rush moves. He has the size. I think he has the athleticism too. He can wreck games, but get him. If you re-sign Trey Hendrickson, you have him and Trey Hendrickson on each side of each other. That is not a bad thing to have with two edge rushers who can get after the quarterback. And then you go to pick 49. I mean, it looks like a lot of the positions they want me to take are off of the board. And they did take two defensive linemen that played pretty well last year, in McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins. Xavier Watts wouldn't be bad, but it's a little bit early. Let's go to Gary Zabel, the interior offensive lineman at North Dakota State. They do need guards. I think he could play tackle. He could play guard. Uh, Bengals fans may not like this because they took Cordell Volson out of North Dakota State in the middle rounds and played him at guard. But I think Gary Zabel proved himself at the Senior Bowl a little bit more, and I think that's going to be something to consider as, hey, we can get a possible starting guard at 49. Let's do that. A guy who's been rising up draft boards, and we'll see what happens. So this is a tough one because we have defensive coordinator Al Golden, who came from Notre Dame as defensive coordinator. So Xavier Watts could definitely be the pick. Lamar Turner's been a guy who's risen along with a lot of other Texas A&M defensive linemen and edge rushers. So I'm torn between Shamar Turner and Xavier Watts. I think because they have two young defensive linemen already, I think they'd probably go Xavier Watts. I do like some of the young. I like Jordan Battle. Geno Stone didn't pan out the right way when the free agent signing. So Von Bell, obviously is kind of aging. So I think Jordan Battle and Xavier Watts as two young safeties would be really good and complementary players. I don't know if they'll actually go for that or do that, but that would be something I would do. Next pick up. Now, Mike Gesicki's another guy I think that the Bengals could re-sign as well. So I don't know if I'll take tight end, but Gunnar Helm, if they don't re-sign him, could be a guy they go after. So again, this will all change once we get to free agency. With this pick, I will go Denzel Burke, the corner of Ohio State. Now, he did get burned at times this year, but he has a lot of good tape earlier in his career. We have the Bengals who have moved safeties to corner, and we have different things going on that aren't always the best. We have Cam Taylor Britt, a former second round pick, getting benched. So having a guy like Denzel Burke who maybe develops could be good for this defense. Just having more options at the corner position. DJ Turner played pretty well last season. We have Dax Hill played pretty well after moving from safety, but both those guys got hurt, so we'll have to see how they come back. This is a tough one here, 154, and then 195 is the last pick. I probably go Ricky White here. This is special teams all over it. He blocked a lot of punts. If you have trouble re-signing T. Higgins, you get another wide receiver here who can add some depth. He's not going to replace T. Higgins in the way that I guess like be one for one. Uh, but he has some depth. He plays special teams. Pick 150s or later. You just try to get special teams guys or depth guys or guys you're trying to develop, not guys who are going to impact things right away, other than special teams usually. So we'll see how that pans out. Pick 195 up now. Again, we'd love to get a defensive lineman, and Riley Mills is here. I think that's going to end up being the pick. Luke Kandra could be a pick, a local kid from Cincinnati who could be another guard. Again, we want to fix the guard spots, but we already have one. They might fix the other in free agency. We'll have to see how free agency goes. I'm going to go Riley Mills. Again, I think that impact of Al Golden coming from Notre Dame really impacts this. A guy who formerly played defensive end, moving into defensive line, can help that defensive line rotation. I think there's going to be lots of changes on that defensive line. So a lot of still up in the air with the Bengals. Again, we have to check back after free agency, but all things being equal, get guys that they're comfortable with, get guys that they've coached, and I think good value here as well. So let's go back through this mock draft. We have James Pierce Jr., the edge out of Tennessee. I personally would have gone Jalen Walker, and yeah, these are kind of what I would do mock drafts, but I think just to kind of keep it realistic, go James Pierce Jr. because he meets those size measurables that the Bengals typically like to get. Gary Zabel, the interior offensive lineman out of North Dakota State, could play tackle, could play guard. In this case, plays guard. He impressed at the Senior Bowl. We'll have to hope that he can improve the interior offensive line for Joe Burrow. Number 81, Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Very good value pick here at the third in the third round. Al Golden as a defensive coordinator for Notre Dame comes in after having familiarity with the Bengals, comes back in to be the defensive coordinator for the Bengals. I think he'll like him. A very good ball hawking safety. Denzel Burke, the corner out of Ohio State, gets burned sometimes, but I do think he has some pretty good tape early on in his Ohio State career to make you want to bet on him. And just with all the kind of changes in the secondary the Bengals have had the last couple of years, just getting some more depth there wouldn't be the worst idea. Ricky White, the wide receiver out of UNLV, a guy who will give you depth in the wide receiver room, pretty good speed, and can play special teams. And then defensive lineman Riley Mills out of Notre Dame to help that defensive line rotation. They do have some good young defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, but Riley Mills can just add to that as a late round pick at pick 195. So let me know what you think of this mock draft down in the comments below. We'll be doing more mock drafts for each team before the 2025 NFL draft. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.